Hello, and thank you for listening. I'm John Huddle. This is religiouscultsinfo.com. And today we're going to talk about a post titled, Chad Cooper Files a Complaint Against Word of Faith Fellowship and Several Named of the Leadership at that group for Alienation of Affection. We're going to talk about what that is and the details, some of the details of this complaint. So on May 15th, Chad Cooper filed in Rutherford County District Court a complaint for a petition for relief for alienation of affection. This complaint outlined various claims against the defendants, and those defendants include Jane Calder, David Calder, Jane Whaley, Sam Whaley, Brooke and Kent Covington, Amy Matos, and Word of Faith Fellowship Incorporated. The claims include accusations against the defendants that, quote, willfully, actively, wrongfully, and intentionally interfered with the marital relationship of Chad Cooper and Lauren Calder Cooper. The file number is 18 CVD 579, and all the defendants have been served. The deadline for answering the complaint has been moved to July 24th. There has also been a motion filed by Josh Farmer, representing Word of Faith, seeking to move the case to Superior Court in light of the requested sum total of monetary relief excess of $4 million. So what is alienation of affection? Well, it's obvious I'm no legal expert, and I'm only repeating the results that I've seen or the research on the internet. I'm not offering, quote, legal opinions, unquote, and just general observations. Also, I'm not going to try to retell or retype the entire complaint, but only draw out a few vital points. From a source listed at rosen.com, which is an attorney, quote, in North Carolina, you may sue an individual who has caused a married person to suffer loss of affection of their spouse so long as the marriage was peaceful and intact at the time of the affair. One of the results of my research revealed that only a handful of states in this country still allow this type of legal action, and in North Carolina there's roughly 200 alienation of affection lawsuits filed each year. The source for that is listed in the post. Yes, this legal action is generally used in situations where one of the marriage partners has had an affair and the other marriage partner believes that there was malicious intent on the part of the third party. Chad is not claiming that Lauren had an affair with another man. In number 6 of the complaint, he is claiming, quote, the defendants during the marriage of plaintiff to Lauren Cooper knew of inappropriate and lewd relations between Lauren Cooper and defendant Amy Matos, considering both were married at the time. The defendants collectively colluded to actively attempt to hide such occurrences from the plaintiff and instructed Lauren Cooper to continue her relationship with the defendant, Amy Matos. Plaintiff had to actively defy church leadership and instruction to finally find out about the conspiracy, end quote. Quote, the defendants actively conspired and maliciously plotted to drive perceived doubt, mistrust, and lies about the plaintiff to cause separation, which ended in divorce. That was number 7 in the complaint. And from the complaint, number 8. Quote, beginning sometime around the first of the year in 2016, the defendant suspected that the plaintiff and Lauren Cooper were showing more love for each other than for the church, and thus took severe, unprovoked, malicious, and criminal activity against the plaintiff. After stealing passwords and criminally accessing private emails between plaintiff and Lauren, they kept Lauren Cooper against her will at the home of Brooke and Kent Covington, where all the defendants conspired to cause the divorce of the plaintiff from his wife. Continuing on, the threats culminated with the hysterical and unfounded profession that the plaintiff was indeed a demon. Further, Lauren secretly reached out to the plaintiff to inform him of these lies, threats, and malice, but the damage was ultimately done to her mentally. Plaintiff had to inform the pastor that her actions were both evil and illegal before he could be allowed to see his own wife. But his intervention was not soon enough. Even till present day, Lauren is still affected and wounded by the unspeakable and atrocious acts committed by the defendants. End quote. This appears to be the determining sequence of events which Chad cited for the complaint. He goes on to say that the results of these actions by the defendants caused, quote, severe mental distress to the said minor child. Yes, Chad and Lauren have a young child. He goes on and claims the actions of the defendants have reduced the financial income to the plaintiff by causing the plaintiff to have to care for 2 households. Chad summarizes his losses in these words, and these are his words. Quote, he suffered serious and grievous injuries, including the loss of love and affection of Lauren Cooper, loss of consortium of Lauren Cooper, mental agony and anguish, humiliation, damage to his honor, destruction of his family, and wounded sensibilities, end quote. In number 15 of the complaint under relief requested, quote, wherefore the plaintiff brings this action and demands judgment of, from, and against the defendants in the sum of $1,877,800 in actual damages and $2,400,000 in punitive damages, together with reasonable attorney fees, and the defendant shall be assessed all the costs of this action, end quote. There are other parts of the complaint which we may review at another time or which may be brought out if indeed the case ever goes to trial. From previous cases where word of faith is involved, I believe we can expect delays, and more delays, attempted depositions of individuals not necessarily related to the case, and possibly a motion filed by Josh Farmer for immediate dismissal of the Word of Faith Fellowship Incorporated from the proceedings. This has been Josh Farmer's pattern to file strategic motions in the very beginning of cases with hopes of a favorable ruling for his client. In that regard, he is, quote, a good attorney defending his clients. No doubt, this case is not the norm, and it will be very interesting to see what develops. If there's any level of success by Chad in this action, it could open the door for additional similar complaints to follow for other ex-members. I offer this prediction after reading the complaint and understanding the inner working dynamics of Word of Faith subculture. So I want to go off script here, and I want to talk about alienation of affection, where you alienate the affection of a spouse from possibly someone who's left. Does this ring true with anybody else? Is overall, in general terms, do we see this over the years where when one spouse may stop believing the vital beliefs of the group, and even if they stay for a period of time, there begins the process to alienate the spouse that's in the group and still believing. Alienate them from their spouse. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. Has anybody else? Have any other former members been treated in the same or similar ways as Chad outlines in this complaint? For ex-members who are inside during this time frame, did the events occur as they were outlined? Is it possible that the extreme loyalty of the leadership named in this complaint blinded them to the true nature of their deeds? Would leadership view these alleged actions as showing Lauren and their child the, quote, love of God, end quote? They were only, quote, doing whatever it took to keep Lauren in the will of God. Would Chad open himself up to additional pressures and public review of his plight unless he fully believed that there were serious and, quote, malicious, end quote, acts committed? I have not discussed these questions with Chad. This case may cause changes in the dynamics of Word of Faith Fellowship and its practices in the future. It'll be interesting to see how this goes forward. I shared this case before I posted this post with 2 individuals that used to be members at Word of Faith Fellowship, and the first thing they said was, John, you could do the same thing. I believe there's a statute of limitations. I'm not saying that there was not a process similar that has separated me and my family. You can follow us on Twitter at Religious Cults, on Facebook, facebook.com, John Huddle Author, YouTube, religiouscultsinfo.com, and of course on my blog, religiouscultsinfo.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see how this turns out. There'll be more updates in the future. Talk to you again soon.